Hello, and welcome to Digifabricators, the show where we learn how makers and artists use their computer driven tools for fun, art, and profit. I'm your host, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, and with me is my talented but sleepy co host, Al Schultz of New York Woodworks. How are you tonight, Al?
I'm doing wonderful, Jeff. Thank you very much. Had a little snow to plow and some salt to put out today. It's a crispy 16 degrees and 20-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm happy to be inside and looking forward to this guest. I'm excited about this.
Well, I got you beat. It's 18 degrees here,
Oh,
but it's supposed to be up to about 32, so we should be up to the freezing point tomorrow. So that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fantastic. All right, well, let's fire off the disclaimer and we can get started here. Even though we pretend to be experts on the internet, I would like to point out that neither of us have any actual training and are just guys winging it in our shops and learning as we go. All advice provided is based on our personal experience and possibly inaccurate assumptions and is worth exactly what you pay for it. If listening to this show causes you to take out a loan to buy new and expensive digital tools, you may tell your spouse that it was our fault, but do so at your own risk. So, this episode, we have a guest who owns the holy grail of digital fabrication, and he uses it to make the kinds of stuff that I would make if I had it. He gets done more than most of us, even though he's upside down and only using one arm. A big how you going to Leigh Aitken from Twig and Bot. Welcome to the show.
How are you going? Thanks for having me.
Good evening, sir, or afternoon.
Yeah. So basically I have a big robot arm that I've set up as a wood carving system with a chainsaw, a bandsaw, and a large spindle. And basically I can throw a log into that and carve it into whatever I want. So I do a range of furniture, mostly from reclaimed timber, so trees that are getting taken down locally. And then I also do a bunch of contract machining, so machining for other furniture makers or architects or construction companies. Yeah.
Has this been a like what got you to here? Like, have you always been in the crafts? Are you from a family of craftsmen? You know, just a quick history of how did we get to this room?
So
In 2 minutes.
I've been making things since I was a kid, tinkering around in the garage. So a bit of woodwork or making billy carts and go-karts and motorized scooters and things. I had a next door neighbor that had a welder and chop saw, and I was constantly borrowing them off him, probably when I was in high school, to build bits and pieces. And I went on to study robotics engineering and then spent 10 years in the industry designing and building robot automation systems for factories, sort of focusing on metal polishing and linishing applications, but also doing a whole lot of other different applications as well. So we did a few systems kind of similar to mine, or robot with a spindle for universities, robot welding systems, handling systems, all kinds of stuff. I built a CNC router with a guy I went to uni with, probably going on 20 years ago now. Started off a part-time business while I was working at the robotics place. So I was doing a little bit of CNC machining at home, making branding irons for woodworkers, and doing a bit of wood machining as well. And then
So your robotics, your education got you into digital fabrication, and you've just taken it literally to the limit.
Even in high school, I was interested in it. I built a little sort of CNC circuit board making machine. So it was basically a little XY plotter with a etch-resistant pen on it, and I could draw on copper-clad circuit boards and then etch them out afterwards. But it was sort of before you could get, stepper motors and software off the shelf, and so it was programmed in QBasic or something at the time, and very clunky, but it did some work. So and definitely got me interested.
I had a baseball bat when I was that age. I used to hit things with it.
I used to throw a lot of rocks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was pretty good at skipping them.
I don't want to talk over you, Jeff, but I have looked at other 8-axis, I guess you are.
Yep.
I've looked at some others as well as yours, and I have a standard 3-axis CNC.
Yeah.
I just cannot wrap my head around, like, the silliest thing. I can't fathom how you zero this thing. like how do you is your 0 point literally left? Like, is that a point in space now? Left?
No.
So, is there a simple? You don't know what Germantown is. It's the town I'm in and I grew up in, but I graduated from here, so you have to speak very slowly and use small
Let's assume
words.
American public school system was in play.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
yeah,
right?
but if you could, is there a layman's? This is kind of how it works. This is the basics of after 3 or 4 axes. This is what happens.
Yeah, I'll give you it. I'll have a shot at it. So basically, the robot itself has 6 rotary axes on it that drive the arm. And then there's obviously the track that moves the robot along, and then there's the rotary table or headstock that can rotate as well. So every one of those axes has a little datum switch on it. Mm-hmm. So you can screw an electronic measuring tool into that. It's basically like a dial gauge or something. And the robot will drive itself back and forth across that. It's a little block with a V in the middle and find the center of the V. And then it knows exactly where that axis is. So that gets all your axes to a known 0 position. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that only has to be done if something goes wrong with the robot. So I haven't recalibrated that for 6-7 years now, even since before I moved factories. So
if you have and I'm going to have to use American, freedom units, we call them.
Yeah.
If you have a 12-inch by 12-inch cube,
yep,
and you want to cut a 10-inch sphere out of it,
yep,
is your known point the center of that sphere, and then you work in all directions around that point? Is that kind of the concept?
So basically, once you've got the robot homed like that, you can set up the origin of the cell to wherever you want. So for me, I've got it set up to the center of the rotary table. So if I drop something on that rotary table, the bottom center of the part is XYZ 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
If I put something on the table at the other end of the cell, that'll be, say X 4 meters or, X 15 feet or something like that. Although the robot doesn't understand freedom units, so
right. And I josh completely.
One of mine does.
Yeah, okay.
One out of the 4 robots I have understands freedom units. The other 3 are strictly metric systems for some reason.
Yeah. That's okay. I've got an old lathe that's in inches, so. Getting
I have
versions.
Yeah, I have a special tape measure so I can talk to my buddy. I literally Oh yeah, okay. Wow, that's a nice size. I'm holding the tape measure up in front of my face.
I 3D printed a ruler here that does millimeters up to about 220, I think,
Mhm.
because when I'm 3D printing stuff, I like to download stuff and hit print, and I don't always pay attention to the exact scale on things. And sometimes the stuff is just too big or too small, and I'm like, God damn metric. If it would have been in inches, I could have just visualized how big that was going to be, and then it would have known to adjust it. But if I need to print something out and it comes up and says it's, 70 centimeters across, and I pick up my little ruler and I look at that, and there's the 7 mark, and I'm like, okay, that's a little small. I can scale it up a little. So, this gives me something I can have in my hand when I'm scaling things, so I can actually see what 10 centimeters is right in front of me, because I can work in them, but I don't really think in them yet. I'm guessing, after another couple of years with the 3D printer, I may just get to the point where I can think either direction fluently, but I'm absolutely not there yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's sort of cool. So you'll zero at the center of the table before you put something on it, and then you'll just tell it that the object is, 300 centimeters tall, and then it'll know where to carve from here to there.
Yep.
It's the same as doing a bottom zero on a 3-axis machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that turntable's relatively permanently set up as the 0 position.
That
you've got to
makes
go in
sense.
and edit the config files to change that. So
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say almost everything you're gonna want to carve, you're gonna want to put on that turntable to give it that extra rotary ability. That saves the arm from reaching around to the other side, I guess. But I would just say put it on the table, even if you don't need to spin it, just because it's a good mounting spot. It's your anchor point. How do you hold stuff to that? Is that a fixturing thing? How does that work?
Every trick I can find.
You're like running screws up through the bottom of it into the wood or something?
Yeah, a lot of stuff's that. If we don't have to spin it, we can use vacuum work holding.
Okay.
Use vacuum pads to hold it down. Sometimes tech screws or bolts and clamps and ratchet straps.
Yeah.
Anything.
Now, in a perfect world, I'm assuming, just from looking at it, that you're an amazing tactician at what you do. For example, the bolt or the nut you just did. What is that, other than the concept, because that could take, I understand, creation in your mind takes any amount of time for anybody. But once you had I'm going to make a wooden nut 1.5 foot tall or 2 foot tall or whatever that is. What's it look like to get from here? Is there hours and hours and hours of programming in different steps with different tooling because of all these axes, or am I just overcomplicating this in my mind?
Something like the nut, there is a fair bit of programming involved. So, for making those, it's done in quite a few steps. So we put a big log on the turntable. We use the bandsaw to cut it down to hexagonal. Then we use a chainsaw to hollow out the center, sort of cut a core out of it. And then the bandsaw parts it off. So it's switching back and forward between lots of tooling.
So the tooling is set up like a tool changer. They're just instead of little bits, you're literally picking up a slab mill.
Yeah. So it's got both of those. So the spindle is auto tool change, so we can drop off collet chucks and pick up different tools. But then we can drop off the whole spindle with the robot tool changer and pick up the chainsaw or bandsaw or a sheet metal forming head or
for those of you that haven't
tool changer right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those of you that haven't gone to check out Leigh's page yet, this arm can run a spindle with a 1/4 inch, 3/8, or 1/2 inch mill in it, and then put that down and go pick up a 60-inch bandsaw head and mill logs like Matt Cremona, and then go back to it and with an 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch deep V bit and make a sign.
Yeah.
So, how did you get this thing together? It sounds like you had quite an adventure parting this thing into shape from the beginning here, didn't you? Maybe we should hear
Yeah.
the backstory of what you made and a really solid description for the audio listeners as to exactly what we're looking at here. As I mean, Al and I have already looked at it, so we get that's kind of cheating for us. But you can give us the creation story and a better description of all the fun parts, tracks, and changers, and arms, and tables, and
Yeah. So, well, actually, it was the robot track that kind of kicked all this off. Um, Basically, it's a track you can bolt the robot to. It's servo driven, all controlled by the robot, and it can move the robot along. So ours has got a 7 meter travel. So what's that, 23, 24
21
feet,
feet
something like
plus
that?
or minus.
Yeah. But yeah, basically one came up for sale secondhand here. Saw it one night on one of the on one of the equipment dealer sites.
So what? Sorry to interrupt, but what was it doing before you came and converted it to what it is?
Nothing, it turns out. So a company had bought it uh, for a project that never went ahead. It was bought by a toilet manufacturing company. So they
So
were
it was
making.
it was doing line work at a factory or something.
No, they bought it for a project doing line work,
Uh,
but they never
mhm.
installed it. So basically, when we got it, it was brand new. It had just been
Oh,
sitting around for probably 5 or 6 years,
amazing.
gathering
Yeah.
dust and a bit of moisture. And yeah, so yeah, they don't come up for sale very often in Australia. So I'd kind of been dreaming of building, this robot wood carving system, and I saw that and I'm like, I'll buy it, but I had nowhere to put it. I was, working full time still, and so I shipped it down to my work, and they were good enough to keep it in the factory there for a while. And then I bought a second-hand robot to go with it, as well as an extra axis to make the turntable from. So I got that from a robot dealer in Spain called Eurobots. That got shipped to my work as well, and yeah, a few months later, the company I was working for ended up in liquidation. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I've got to do something with this. So, yeah, I got a lease on a factory with some friends and decided to take this full time and,
Yeah.
yeah, get it set
So
up.
this is this a one-off machine, or is it a machine that you? I'm sorry if I'm not wording this correctly. Do these machines exist and you just built one like it, or this doesn't exist and you built this?
No, it's pretty unique.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's other companies with robots with spindles on them.
Right.
Yeah, so some of the universities and research places have even put a small bandsaw on there. Um, but yeah, in terms of the mix of tooling we've got and the scale of it, yeah, it's fairly unique, and most of what's on there is sort of custom designed and built.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Most of the parts seem to be fairly. I mean, the robot arm and the track is a pretty standard factory item,
yeah,
and the turntables aren't that rare either. But the fact that you've put the robot on the track, given it a turntable, and then added the tool changers really kind of I the number of people who get these things and end up using them for woodwork is very very slim number. I'm assuming there's a couple other people on the internet that have robot arms that they just play with, but it's a very short list.
Yeah.
I only know of one, Lignum.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely a few others around, but yeah, compared to CNC machines and that, it's quite a small niche.
Yeah. It's amazing with all the capabilities that you've pulled out of this that mega companies aren't using them. Like it just seems like, why would you buy 5 machines when you can buy one to do all 5 machines' jobs?
Yeah, it is very flexible what we can do with it. Yeah, I guess the main things that compete with it are like some of the big beam processing machines and things that have got a 5-axis, CNC that can,
Yeah.
yeah, process timber as it flows through.
Mhm.
But yeah, certainly this is a very flexible system, and for the size of it, can handle quite a large workpiece.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there will be more of them going forward. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's not cheap either. There's a lot of parts that go into it.
could you
Um,
venture could you venture a guess as to what a machine like that would cost? Just ballpark, not asking what your numbers are.
yeah, I haven't been brave enough to add up my numbers yet. But I've done everything I can from secondhand parts, designed and built everything myself over the last 6-7 years. I think if you went to a company and like a robot integrator and asked them to build you a system like this, US dollars, you'd probably be looking 700,000 or 800,000, something like that.
It's kind of where I was thinking, 750.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly we haven't spent anything near that, but it's still been substantial.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, so what is your business model like? Do people just walk in off the street and say, "Can you make these for me?" Or I see you got a robot in the back. Can you do this?
Yeah.
Or are you, are you working for big conglomerates and companies doing,
Uh,
if you can speak?
yeah. So not too many people walking off the street. A lot of people find me online, either through the websites or through Instagram or
Yeah.
yeah, or through word of mouth. But yeah, I guess a large part of what I do, as I said, is sort of machining components for other companies.
Hmm.
We've done a lot of stuff lately for a few new piers that have been built down here.
Hmm.
They're architecturally designed and they've got these giant curved timbers in them that are pretty hard to cut, sort of using any other means. But we've got the bandsaw on the robot and can basically cut whatever radius they need and cut big notches out of things that are deeper than you can get into with conventional tools. And
It's just,
yeah,
I can't wrap my head around this thing.
Yeah, all I'm thinking, I'm not sure how much you're into the American maker community, but the staple of the American maker community is Jimmy DiResta, who seems to be a bandsaw king. And you seem to have found something you can do with a bandsaw that
That he
Jimmy
can't.
has never thought of yet. So I'm gonna have to give you props for that. That is,
Well, he might have thought of it, but
I
yeah,
don't know if he's thought of it, but he's probably gonna think about it soon.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. He's a collect. If you don't follow him, he's amazing at restoring, and he loves old like 1800s
yeah,
printing presses and things like that. And he's probably got 50 bandsaws.
yeah. I've definitely come across some of his content.
Okay.
Yeah, really
Yeah,
cool.
it's hard not to.
Yeah,
he's,
yeah.
he's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's a new one for bandsaw. Is sticking that on there. Oh man, is that how complicated is that? I mean, it'll do about anything. You just got to watch. Or do you use like wider bands or thinner bands on that? Because I mean, I've got a shitty little bandsaw. I mean, I think I've got a 10-inch Rikon almost a toy. But I mean, I've already got to adjust the blades for, if I want to do the vertical rip thingy, I got to use the wide blades. And then if you want to like cut shapes and angles, you've got to use the thinner blade. Do you have a restriction on the angles of the depths of the amount of curve you can do with that without breaking a freaking blade, torquing it around?
I've been surprised at how few blades I've broken. But yeah, but it's basically set up, I guess, like a bandsaw mill. So I did look at Matt Cremona's stuff when I was designing and building that. He's got a lot of information online on how he built his and how he's done tracking and things like that. But yeah, so I'm running a...
He's not going over the hill and through the woods with it.
No. But yeah, so I'm running a blade. It's probably a bit over 1.25 inches wide, about 40 thou thick.
That's a beast.
Yeah, and if I adjust the guides right out, I can cut up to about 6 foot wide logs. At a maximum. So, those blades are designed for cutting straight. I've definitely you can cut gentle curves with them. If you're talking about a 10 foot plus radius or something like that. But then, I can put smaller blades in there, different guides, and do quite tight curves. And even sort of 3-dimensional curves where there's twist involved as well. And
that's some extra dimensions of bandsaw that nobody really gets to think about. Because I mean, you can't. Bandsaws are supposed to have, they're supposed to go one direction, and your work stuff is supposed to be flat down on the floor and cut at 90 degrees. And you're not supposed to twist the material as you push it through the bandsaw, because then that's how people end up with stumpy hands. But apparently, as long as it's the robot hand in there, it's all good.
Yeah. You want to stay well clear of that. It could definitely take off more than a finger. So.
I was gonna say, is this just like a giant room full of Fruit Ninja going on with like blades and everything flying?
So the robot's got its own room, and then that's got a sort of 10-meter wide opening in the front of it where we can load stuff, and then that's got a safety scanner that sort of monitors that whole opening, and then if anything goes through and breaks it. Either a person or something getting flicked out of the robot cell, it'll just stop everything.
Right, yeah. I think that's pretty common on heavy duty. I've got a friend who has works at a cabinet shop with a monster machine, and if you get within 2 feet of that thing, it stops. It stops so hard that they have to throw everything away because it'll break the vacuum and slide it.
I guess that thing saw stop kind of damage
speed. Yeah, he said that gantry will get going. It'll break your arm if it hits you. Like if you get close enough to it, if you could break the laser and it hit you, it would break your arm.
Yeah. There's some of the high speed laser cutters, like for sheet metal. I've heard they accelerate so hard they'll rip themselves out of the concrete. They keep getting foundation issues.
Damn. Well, I mean, you're throwing a lot of weight around.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to have high acceleration starts and stops with something that weighs, what's a fucking robot arm weigh?
A bit over, probably 1,200 kilos. So
a lot.
That? Yeah,
3,600.
Yeah,
no
plus
idea.
A couple of 100 kilos of bandsaw and
I mean, just the weight of the bandsaws throwing it around, let alone the weight of the arm. That's
yeah.
I But I suppose it's a lot easier when you're mounted on the track because the track is mounted all the way across the damned room. So you've got,
Yeah.
a 21 foot of track bolted to the ground, and it's attached to that like a roller coaster cart, kind of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something like, I think there's 36, 3/4 inch anchors going into the concrete to hold that down.
Yeah.
So,
Over the length of 20
yeah.
feet. So
Yeah.
that's not as big of a problem as an arm that would just be bolted by 6 bolts straight to the floor.
Yeah.
Then you're just ripping up the carpet. I mean, ripping up the cement directly underneath it.
Yeah.
That's 1,200 kilos is 2,645 pounds. That's 2 Volkswagen Beetles doing 700 inches a minute on the wall.
Yeah, and I mean they want it to start and stop quickly.
Yeah.
It's zipping around back and forth. It ain't taking its time.
Yeah. No, it moves along pretty quickly at full speed.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What's maintenance, if anything, on a machine like that?
The robot itself has been really good. Like, I think you're supposed to change the oil after 20,000 hours of operation.
Uh-huh.
And we bought it secondhand and it had like 1,300 hours on it. So,
So you're good for a day or two.
yeah.
So everything's sealed. They're all sealed, right? And they run like wiper seals on the elbows, basically.
Yep.
And they keep everything. Yeah.
Yep. Just shaft seals on all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the track, you've got to grease occasionally. Just I think the rollers and it's got a rack and pinion drive on the back.
Yeah. Is there dust collection in that room, or do you just let it fall on the floor and then blow it out?
That's a constant battle. The robot can send dust in just about any direction. So, trying to get dust collection is tricky. But we've got basically a 6-inch duct that can follow the robot along and come down to the spindle or the bandsaw and sort of, collect from the source. Some of the heavy stuff still escapes, but we're improving on that.
Yeah, it's don't feel bad. I don't know anybody's wood shop who has perfect dust collection yet.
Yeah.
It would be kind of hard to get a whole lot out of the bandsaw. I mean, you can hook it into the bandsaw if it's got a port right on it, but I mean, you're never going to catch the stuff that's coming off of it.
It's not
but I
as
mean,
bad as
with
you'd
the
think.
spindle, you can get close to where you can get within enough inches of the tip of it to catch a lot of it if you got enough suction going.
Yeah,
you want to be on turn 1 at a NASCAR track.
That's
where you want to be.
But I mean, you got a dedicated room. You can just make a mess and sweep when you're done.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sweep anyway. Why make a big fuss over sweeping 7 minutes versus 5? I mean,
yeah. Well, So some of the jobs are more of a shovel than a sweep, but
right, there you go. But I mean, it's just the depth of you got to sweep the whole room wall to wall. It's just a matter of how deep the pile is.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would make a big deal about dust collect. I mean, I don't really do dust collection on my own shit. I just don't care. I don't collect it. I just set it free.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. But
I've damaged my lungs too bad already. I have to. I'm hyper about it now.
Yeah. No, we try and keep it out of the air as much as we can. Yeah.
Well, I smoke cigarettes too, which is like a dummy for a lot of years. But I mean, I haven't smoked for several years now. But
I think 9 years maybe. I think I had cigarettes. I think I was a pack a day for about 9 years. But by my mid-20s, I'd had enough. I couldn't run across the parking lot without wheezing, and I decided that I'm still super young and I'm having these kind of effects. It's time to quit.
Yeah.
And,
I smoked
so
32 years.
Yeah. It's been over 30 for me. I can track it pretty carefully because I've got a kid that's 31, and right after I quit smoking, she got pregnant. I think there's something to do with the nicotine in the swimmers there. That as soon as I stopped smoking
So,
cigarettes, they
wrong
started
podcast.
swimming
Wrong
again.
podcast.
But
This is not. This is a wrong podcast.
anyway, yeah, the
So,
smoke. Thankfully, it's been 30 years since I've had a cigarette.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't have as much dust as most people. I mean, I tend to do a lot of smaller, intricate projects,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, especially if I'm using the Shapeoko, it's a freaking trim router.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
literally a trim router running around, and I'm taking 50 thou passes off of something, and it really just throws a little bit of dust right in the general vicinity. It doesn't go everywhere, and I generally do smaller projects. So I mean, it's not
Mm.
big, massive scale of projects. I don't run a 4x8 bed with
Yeah.
vacuums
Yeah.
or anything fancy, but
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't make that much dust, and I just sit a couple feet away from it and call it a day.
What's the horsepower and like bit diameter? Like how big a bit are you guys generally running?
So the spindle itself's 11 kilowatts, so around maybe 15 horsepower or something.
Yep.
Yeah, the bits we use just about anything, but some of them are like 3 inches diameter and 10 inches long or something. We run a 16-inch or 400 mil circular saw blade in the spindle as well.
Oh my god.
That really likes getting dust out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so our dust extraction's got a fairly small bin. I think it's only 80 liters or something, so it's
Mm-hmm.
under 20 gallon.
20. Yeah.
And
That is tiny.
with certain processes, we can fill that in under 10 minutes
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
robot.
So with the robot, you said that you built a CNC early on, like before CNCs even had names. What do you use other digital equipment today in your everyday process? Do you have other mills like Tormax
yeah, so
or
just
metal?
certainly the CNC router we still use a lot. We've upgraded that over the years, so that's an auto tool change now, and we cut wood and metal on that, or soft metals anyway, brass and aluminium. Got a little.
Wait. We're
I
not
knew
going to
you were
go
going to
right
pick me up
past
on
that.
that.
Sorry.
Aluminum.
Did you say aluminum? I'm just busting on you. I catch my buddy Colin all the time with it. He's like, I'm not saying it. You can't make me fucking say it. So it's just one
Yep.
like a
Yeah, so it's maybe a 5x3 foot bed, or processing area.
Okay.
But it's fairly heavily built. It's welded steel frame, ball screws on all axes.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, like even a bunch of parts for the robot cell were machined on there.
Oh, nice.
In aluminium.
In aluminium. Yeah.
All the spindle mounts and things like that. Got a small 3D printer, a Flash Forge, something or other. Nothing fancy. It's a few years old now, but mostly comes in handy for making bits and pieces for the equipment. A lot of dust extraction fittings. Where you need some strange size or
So you basically have the robot, and then you have a fleet of robots to support the robot.
We've got a whole workshop to support the robot. So
what kind of software are you running? Like, is it like off the shelf, or is it something you've had to write over years to work with all this stuff?
No, so we use a program called Robot Master. So yeah, that'll let us generate tool paths and simulate all the robot movements. Make sure it's not going to crash into anything or end up out of reach, or we can move things to different parts of the robot cell if we want to run it on the rotary table or the fixed table. Or
I didn't even think about that. Like, you could literally shove that thing through a wall if you're
yeah,
not careful.
yeah, yeah.
Or punch a hole in the wall with it.
Yeah. When I worked back at the robot integrators, we had a couple of customers try and do that.
Nice.
Wow.
You got to carve a big Kool-Aid man first, and then push that through the wall.
Yeah. But no, anyway, the robot mask is good. We can kind of simulate, things and make sure it's not going to hit the walls or the roof or whatever else is around.
And it's just going to be a heavy CAD manufacturing type software, like not maker software like I'm used to using.
No. And then for the CNC, I run Carveco.
Okay.
That's a Vectric program, isn't it? Carveco?
No,
I think it's a competitor.
It's a competitor.
Yeah. Used to be Artcam, and then I think got bought by Autodesk, and then went into the ground and sold back to the original people, and they re-released it as Carveco.
Yeah, that's a monthly subscription, which is a pleasant change to a $2,000 surprise one annual mess.
Oh, it's an outright license that I've got.
Oh, is it?
They might do it by subscription too, but
yeah, they've got a subscription model. You can just sign up by the month. I think I paid for 2 or 3 months of it when I was getting started. I started on the manufacturer software, and then I tried Carveco for a project, and it's really good. I'd say it's pretty comparable to like the Vectric desktop kind of thing. What it's really got going, I thought was nice, was they had a good clip art collection for reliefs.
Yeah.
Which is what I tried it for. That was my first experiment with 3D carving, was on Carveco. Is I threw a jack-o'-lantern in there out of the clip art and figured out how to get some 3D paths on there. And then I got bored with that because it was too easy. It was too user friendly. And I went straight to Fusion, which makes absolutely no sense and is very complicated and made my sense of doing things complicated very happy.
Yeah.
So is your software kind of Fusion-ish? Similar interfaces and.
To be honest, I haven't used Fusion. I think I might have downloaded it once and had a look, but that was a long time ago. But a lot of my design I do in Inventor, which is also Autodesk. So do the 3D design in that, and then take it across into one of our CAM softwares. And
it's very interesting. Is like we've talked to a couple of different higher level software users in design and digital fabrication, and I'm sitting here. I'm with I'm using Vectric Aspire, which is their top line. I get top prosumer. I get, is that the term we heard?
Yeah, that's the word we didn't have last week.
Yeah. But like I do everything in Aspire. Like I do the designing in it. Like I draw in it, or I'll import something and start from there. Yeah. Whereas I hear a lot of men, ladies and gentlemen, who are using big high-end commercial production machines are like doing design and then taking a design into this software and then just putting it in the controller software at the end.
Yeah.
Do you find that you just have to do it that way, or because there is no software that does it all, or is it just dumbed? I don't want to say dumbed down, but is it just simplified for maker users like me, low-level production guys who don't need all this horsepower?
Yeah, I guess the kind of design I'm doing, yeah, you can do solid and surface modeling and stuff in these programs, but uh, it's probably just because I used Inventor for 10 years when I was at the robotics place, and it's like a
Everybody,
third hand or something.
yeah,
It's there.
go with
Yeah.
what you know, right?
I can design something in that far quicker than I could in the CAM software.
Yeah,
Um,
that has kept me from going to. I downloaded Fusion 2 or 3 times back when it was still student usable. Now they've changed their format a little bit, I guess. As far as I
It's
understand.
it's still there. They
But
just keep hiding it better.
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
On the
But
license
it's
page,
like
scroll all the way to the bottom. Right above the fine print at the bottom, right above that is a link that says hobby license.
yeah, Jeff is going to do his level best to get me on Fusion and buy a 3D printer.
yeah.
Yep.
So so it's kind of a just people at the level you are right now have been doing it for so long that you just have your library of sources, like your software that you're good at.
Yeah.
So it seems to be that's the answer, if you will. Like I started in Vectric. I have lots of friends who look at that and go, "No way, I'm happy where I'm at." I
Yeah.
don't need all that horsepower. And then I see people like you guys, and I'm like, I don't have any horsepower at all. This is a pony.
Well, not all the packages try to really be an all inclusive for everything.
Right. Right.
A lot of these controller softwares are more focused on you import the model that you want. You create it in Blender, you create it in Fusion, you create it in whatever software you're into, and then you export that out and you've got a 3D model. And then you can import that in, and then it's really focused on running the machine and creating the cam because it has to know how your machine moves to be able to create the cam for it.
Mm-hmm.
Guessing you could probably do it with Fusion, but it'd be a real pain in the crotch. It'll do about anything if you pay them enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if Fusion's got a robot thing yet. They may, or you can probably
No.
generate 5-axis code and then export that to some other software and use that for the robot conversion.
Yeah, I think it's programmed for 6 at least because
Yeah.
I've seen it. It actually outputs X, Y, Z, A, B, and C for me, and I have to manually take the B and the C out of my rotary code because I can't. As it's something about the fusion shit. There's like an export profile for
Yeah.
rotary,
The
and
post processor.
there's not a lot of good the export. Well, I can't remember what you call the export profiles, but there's not a lot of those out there for rotary, and the one I've found is programmed for A, B, and C,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
I can't get it to. There's just one line at the beginning of every G code that resets all 3 of them, and if I leave the B and the C in there that I don't have, it crashes the program instantly. So
Now, now, you remember about 30 minutes ago when I was making fun of how simple I was with my baseball bat? I have a button in my software that says create, done. But I don't know what it's doing.
right, that's fine.
But
Oh, jeez. So, what was the? I'm missing. I'm missing a hand. You've got the spindle. You've got the bandsaw. What was the other one?
Chainsaw.
The chainsaw. We haven't really discussed the chainsaw. I knew I was missing something. I just blanking on it. But that's so. Is that like a full size chainsaw or what?
It
Or a
was
small one?
basically the biggest, like plug-in electric one, like just handheld that we could find. So they don't sell them in Australia. I had to get it from Germany. Yeah, but it's a 2.5 kilowatt. I think it's got a 16-inch bar on it or something like that. And
Okay.
then we've made up our own sort of mounting bracket to mount it to the tool changer, and all the power's ducted through the tool changer, so we don't have to disconnect anything. And yeah, but yeah, so we use that for a combination of things. A lot of it's just roughing parts out. So if we want to remove a big bit of material, we can do a few cuts and cut a chunk off rather than turning the whole lot into wood chips. It just speeds things up. So we'll often carve something with that to start with, and then come in with the spindle and a rotary cutter after that, a big ball nose cutter or something, and machine it down to the final shape.
Yeah, I suppose that'll reach all the places you can't get with a bandsaw, like the insides of a 200 centimeter nut, for example, that you can't get to the inside, and you don't want to have to spindle your way all the way through the middle.
Yeah,
you can kind of use that to rough the hole down through the middle of the nut.
Yeah.
You could also, I'm assuming, since I'm probably answering my own question here, I'm sorry, but like chainsaw carving is big kind of in the Midwest, mid-southern states here, like for cabins and totem, type stuff. So I'm assuming if you wanted to take the time to put the text, you would have to do some kind of texturing on a model and then carve the whole thing with the chainsaw.
Yeah. Theoretically, you could. Yeah. It's probably not something I'm going to get into too much. Mainly the chainsaw runs oil on the chain, so it's a bit messier than if you're carving with a spindle or something.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, a bit less detail and stuff, and we don't want to put chainsaw carvers out of work.
Right. It'd be cool to make a sculpture of somebody standing there, though. If you ever feel like it, there's a maker scan project out there where somebody has scanned all the people that went to maker camp, and there's a detailed model of a couple hundred makers out there on the internet.
Yeah.
You ever feel like carving a life-size Jimmy DiResta out of a tree? The model is out there, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. There was one guy that did set up a chainsaw carving robot. I think he carved out a dog or something. It was like a low poly model he did of it.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. I think it's like Stuff Made Here or
yeah.
account. But yeah,
he does stuff.
Yeah, check that out if you get a chance.
That's one of those Mark Rober level guys, I think.
Yeah.
His brain is operating on a whole nother level. He coded it and like did all these algorithms himself to automatically generate chainsaw cuts. And
overachievers.
Yeah. Does this arm exist like in a desktop, what we would call a desktop version? Like 1 meter or something, or did I say that measurement?
You can certainly get robot arms that size. So the robot I've got's got a 240 kilo payload and a 2.7 meter reach. You can get little ones with a 1 meter reach and a 10 kilo payload or something like that. And I have seen people using those with a small spindle to do machining.
There you go, Jeff.
What do you think that's going to cost me for Christmas this year? That's even a little tiny one that's going to fit on a desktop is still probably pushing 6 figures, right?
I was gonna say I don't know what the number is, but I know it will cost you your marriage.
I don't know what the conversion rate is there, but
not good.
But like a lot of people will pick up a secondhand robot, maybe for $10,000 or less, and then stick a spindle on it themselves, and
Stick a spindle on it, and maybe a small bandsaw.
that might be pushing it with a little robot, but give it a shot.
Well, I mean, there's small bandsaws out there. I mean, I've got a 10-inch bandsaw. It's pretty light.
Yeah, okay.
You know, got one of those little Rycons. Everybody loves these things. I think they've got an 8-inch too. So I mean, there's smaller stuff out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something to think about. And I mean, here's the other weird thing is, if you were going to do a smaller robot arm and you were worried about the weight of the tool, then maybe you could have the tool be a static item, and then you have the robot arm grab the work.
Yeah.
Because the robot could take a piece of square stock and push it through a bandsaw on a twisting, rotating path that would get you a spiral-sided piece, because you could push it through while it's spinning, where you can't do that stuff by hand. So, I mean, there's potential that you could just grab the workpiece and push it through your normal tools.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely can do that with the robots. I think it's called remote TCP or something similar, depending on the brand. But you have basically the origin of the robot cell is actually attached to the end of the robot. And then, you can have various tools arranged around the robot that you can run the workpiece over. So the robot picks up a piece of wood and sort of carves it in reverse, moving it over the spindle or as you said, the bandsaw or
So when you come back for episode 100, are you going to have two arms juggling?
that would be cool too.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
You picture like those Japanese hibachi chefs that are like swinging their knives around and chopping stuff up in the air. Yeah, you could do that with a couple robot arms. Sure. Why? I can't. Why start making it safe at this point? I mean, really.
Yeah.
You might as well just have it start throwing knives. I mean, by the time you've got it reaching, by the time your arm can just decide to reach over and pick up a chainsaw and swing it around, you've already hit that point. It's the point of no return, and the point where we've decided that safety's out the window. We're just going to stay in the other damn room when this thing runs. Just have a window so you can keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Has anybody seen any of the Final Destination movies?
Yep, and I still won't drive behind a truckload of lumber.
Nope.
Or logs, the chopped telephone poles,
There's an entire generation that will not drive by a log truck.
No. And for good reason. Those things come apart every once in a while.
Yeah. So, are we doing a thing of the week?
I think we can always get around to doing a thing of the week.
Okay.
Did you actually bring something this week, Al?
I've always got a thing of the week. But anyway, Mr. Leigh, do you have a thing of the week? Is there something that's tickling your fancy? Doesn't have to be robot arms or anything like that, but just something, a song. Do you play music? Do you have another hobby that you're like passionate about that you want to share?
I don't think I'm allowed to have other hobbies with the time I spend on this one. But, probably. So my thing of the week is another maker here in Australia. A guy called Corin. I think he goes under Niroc Tools, Niroc. He makes a range of really high quality hand tools, punches, scribes, deburring tools, and then I just saw this week he's about to make a automatic center punch. But he's heavily into laser engraving. He's got a few fiber lasers with rotaries on them that he uses to engrave all kinds of patterns on these things in pretty amazing colors that he can get out of it. Yeah, and he's also just a really generous guy. He's pretty open with information and helping other makers. He's heavily involved in the knife making community over here. Yeah, so that's my thing of the week. I think I'm going to get one of his automatic center punches once they're out.
Nice. That sounds. I love gadgets and gizmos like that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a friend that makes stuff like that.
Yeah, the maker community is an amazing place, but I can honestly say, and we appreciate you coming on tonight, but I have never met an Australian person that was not an amazingly beautiful person. Just like they're just nice and they don't get stressed out about things. It doesn't seem like they're just having a good time.
I don't know. I think they're out there. I mean, I hear my Australian friend complain about them. There's there's always these people. I'm not sure what a bogan is, but apparently it's something he doesn't care for.
Interesting. I think my thing of the week is a pretty simple. I'm not even going to name a brand because when I bought it, there's 100 different brands, but with all the technology I own, I've never had one of these things. It's a box that you hang on the wall and you plug your chop saw into it, and then you plug it into the outlet, and then you plug your shop vac into this box, and when you pull the trigger on your chop saw, it starts your shop vac for you, or dust collector. I actually have one. The one I have has 2 outputs, so I'm actually hung a shop light over my chop saw station. So when I grab my chop saw, it turns on the vacuum, turns on a light, and leaves it on. And they used to be ridiculously expensive, but I think I paid $27 on Amazon for it, and it's 20 amp. It'll switch 20 amps, which is plenty for a chop saw.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you would call that, an auto start switch. There's so many different brands. That's why I didn't want to name one, because they'll all be fighting about whose is better.
Well, just the fact that you turn on the tool and it automatically turns on the suction.
Yep. And it leaves the vacuum on for like 10 seconds after the saw stops and just gets everything cleaned out. And
I would probably actually use dust collection if it turned itself on.
Well, that's that's the biggest contributor other than like a drum sander or something like that is the chop saw, and 90% of the people have vacs on them, and only 10% of the people turn them on because they're like, I'm just going to make a quick cut. You're walking past it and you're like, it's just one cut. It's just one cut. And then at the end of the day, you've made 100 cuts with no dust collection.
Yeah. No, they're a great idea. It's
yeah. And it makes my life easier, and that's one more thing I don't have to think about.
Yep.
How about you, Jeff? You got a thing of the week this week?
I've got a weird one. It's this is a household product, but I think it's an improved household product over what most of us use for this product. So I think it's a definite something to recommend. Washing soap for the washing machine to do your laundry. Most people go down to the store and they buy this big, heavy jug full of Tide or some kind of big liquid soap. And it's expensive. A lot of it's water, and there's a lot of wasted plastic involved. And you end up with, depending on your brand, you're usually paying like 20 cents to 40 cents a load, or sometimes people have got, obviously the Tide Pods, the ones that kids supposedly love to eat so much because they look like candy, although there's not a whole lot of, I don't know, I haven't heard too many people actually dying from them. But anyway, between the pods and the liquids, you're looking at 20 to 40 cents a load. And I found something that is a completely different product entirely from this. The product, the name of it is called Binbata, which is Binbata, and it's a sheet. Think like a dryer sheet, except instead of being like a flimsy fabric sheet, think it's maybe 3 mil thick and about the same size as a dryer sheet, but like 3 mil thick. And what it is it's concentrated soap that's dried and pressed into a sheet. So when it's time to do a load of laundry, you grab one sheet of this stuff and throw it on top of your clothes and slam the lid and hit go. And it completely turns into soap and dissolves. And it's cheap as hell. I'm buying these on Amazon, and it's been costing us about 5 or 6 cents a load to do our laundry.
Wow.
And
it's
it comes in a little cardboard box, and there is no other side product waste of this. It's you know, a fraction of the cost. There's no plastic in the landfill. There's no bring the jugs home from the store. It's just drop a sheet on top of your clothes and start the laundry and get going. It's
and the clean quality is good.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't noticed my clothes being any different than when we used to use like the Tide scent-free liquids is what we used to use. And then I haven't noticed any difference in my clothes being clean, and I'm saving a lot of money. And
nice.
Amazon will send you a box in a couple days, and it's like $10. It's like $10 for sheets or something. I don't know. Maybe it's $15 for 200 sheets. I don't remember what it is. It was like 5 or 6 cents a load though, and easy. It's an odd recommendation for a tech show, but I mean, hey, it's something practical. We all get our clothes dirty in the shop. We got to wash them somewhere, and we might as well save some money.
Tech was used to design it.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody. Yeah, I'm sure there's all kinds of robots figuring out how to take the soap and flatten it down into a little. It's
wafer.
Yeah, it's just it's almost like a little foam sheet. It's like 2 or 3 mil thick foam sheet, you know, and it just dissolves in there and does a good job.
Interesting. So,
it's a good product. I figure, hey, you know, everybody should, you know, hear about it.
Yeah,
all tens of our listeners should get the bonus.
Tens of people.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I mean, that's said now, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, we may have tens of listeners this week, but that doesn't mean that these episodes won't rack up hundreds eventually, because
in perpetuity.
I've noticed that every episode we release, all of the episodes tend to go up by the new amount of listeners. So, I mean, most of the people that are finding us on episode 4 are going back and downloading 1, 2, and 3. So, you know, even though these ones aren't super popular yet, we're going to get there, I think, if we give it time. And everybody that's super interested in the show is super interested in the guests and the people, and there's no reason to not go back and hit the back catalog. I mean, you find a good show, you go, well, there's only this many. Let's go back and listen to them all. And this many can be crazy because, I mean, it's like Jimmy and the guys on Making It are, 460 episodes? And the people will find them now and they'll go back and listen to the whole thing from the beginning, which is some level of commitment. I got to tell you, you must have some spare time on your hands.
Yeah. So outside of becoming famous on this podcast, where can people find you, Leigh?
So primarily through Instagram under Twig and Bot.
Twig and Bot.
Yep. And then that also gets posted across to Facebook under the same tag. And then twigandbot.com.au is the website that's got our furniture on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But,
Okay. Well, you know, this is going to be tough for you. I mean, I like to ask people what their dream tool is, but you've kind of already got the dream tool. Is there a different tool that is a dream tool, or are there just some really amazing upgrades that you could give to this one because you've already got the best thing? What what is your dream tool, and do you already have it?
Yeah, listen, yeah, I dreamed about this tool for a long time, and the dreams keep changing and adding bits to it. But yeah, the point I've got it to, I'm pretty happy. There's always new cutters and bits and pieces I'd love to add to it, or maybe I could throw a ninth axis in there sometime. So the turntable we can actually stand up and use like a giant lathe. We've got a tailstock at the other end, and it can mount a log up to 10 meters long or something between it. But it's a forklift job to be able to change that configuration, and it'd be nice just to have a ninth axis that magically brought it up to that position. And but no, there's always other tools I'd love. I'd like to get a small machining center for cutting steel, and maybe a fiber laser at some stage for engraving metal, and But yeah, what about you two?
Oh, well, you've got mine. I would actually really be interested in finding something that would be of the scale I could actually fit in my basement shop. Something at the 1 meter reach, and 10 or 20 pound capacity. Just enough to push a couple horsepower spindle around in circles, and maybe hook a spinning circular blade onto it or something like that for fun. But I'd say it's small arm. I've got nowhere to go and not enough ambition to do something with a robot of your scale, but something, desktop, or maybe even bolted to the floor in the corner. Just give it the whole corner of the shop. Give it like a 5 foot by 5 foot. This is your corner. This is your safe zone. You work over here.
Yeah, protect it with the saw blade.
Exactly. Yeah, guard the corner with the blade. Exactly. Yeah, just don't go near it. Remote shut off, just in case it ever gets intelligent and wants to come after me. Just keep the power switch just out of reach of it, so I can get.
Keep it off the network.
Yeah.
What was yours, Al? It's been a few weeks.
It has been a few weeks, and I kind of got scolded because I was like, I'd really like a bigger, more capable CNC, but that's like not dream. I already have a CNC. But you know what? One of my dreams has always been, and I'm not an architect a file, like I'm not an architectural geek over things, but I have always wanted to, and I have a dream, and I have even drawn up my version of plans for an Earth contact geodesic dome workshop. I want to basically build an 8-foot basement in the ground, open, like a walkout basement, and then put a geodesic dome on top, and have the workflow of the shop just be a circle. Have my desk or an office kind of in glass where I can keep a clean room in the center, and then just have tools all the way around Would be an amazing shop.
Those geodesic domes are pretty cool. I lived in a nice neighborhood at one point when I was younger, where we had a neighbor that had a geodesic dome over a small swimming pool built on their house. It was these people were loaded. Clearly, there was a lot of money in that neighborhood. We were not the nice house in that neighborhood by any means.
There's actually a gentleman right through the woods here. Interestingly enough, to your statement, he lives in a geodesic dome and he owns a pool company.
Well, there you go. Yeah, theirs wasn't. It was maybe a maybe a 20-foot dome, 20 foot across, and like 10 or 12 foot tall. But that was the roof over their pool room, basically, and the area around it. And that was, but I mean, we had another neighbor with an Olympic sized pool indoor attached to their house. So I mean, it was one of those neighborhoods.
Yeah. Mine would have to be about 60.
Yeah,
because if you're going to
That's
put
going to be a big dome.
Yeah, it's a big dome. That's why I want to go Earth contact. Basically Earth contact, because then you can just do the top. You don't have to do all the structure. You can use. It'll be like a hybrid dome. But
yeah,
and they're just. I just like they're the strongest. An arc is the strongest form. That we have geometrically. Type thing, and we're not violent storms, but weather up here, but we do have nasty winters, so it would be a good efficient building. So yeah, that's it. Geeking out on buildings.
Yeah, why not? Well,
I think a climate controlled workshop of any kind would be nice.
Oh, my shop, it's a 2-car garage. It's 24 by 28 feet, and it's air conditioned and heated because I'm fat.
Yeah, you got what, a mini split in there?
No, we do. I use window units, and I've got a Mister Heater, propane hangs. Mini splits. We were going to do a mini split, and we figured cheap window units that you can trash and throw away every 2 or 3 years, and the commercial resoners you can just maintain and keep them clean because there's 4 working parts in it. Whereas the shop environments, they just destroy mini splits. They're, everybody that's put them in, all the Mr. Cools that we see all the videos a couple of years ago, they're all either being replaced or they're not using them anymore because the shops just destroy them.
I can't remember who was talking. Was that on Making It? They were talking about that a couple months ago, having to replace their mini splits. Or was that somewhere else?
Could have been. Jay Bates did a really in-depth, and he built serious filtration for him, and then he and now he's on to another building, but he did like a whole series on pros and cons, and that's kind of what made me decide not to, because I'm not going to do the maintenance he was doing, which means I just eat them faster.
Right.
Yeah. Is it just the dust that gets into them, or?
Yeah, the fins, they're like a radiator basically, and the fine dust, big sawdust. That if you can see it, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
it's the stuff you can't. The electrostatic stuff that really just jams everything up. I mean, even dust collector filters, it wrecks them too.
Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me, but and that's the dust that's dangerous, unfortunately.
Yeah,
right. Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's always the invisible stuff that wants to kill us.
Yeah.
The microbes, the germs, the fine particulate dust,
War of the Worlds.
the carbon dioxide that comes up through your basement floor somehow, and it's all that little stuff that you can't see. Pervasive.
So you have no climate control in your shop? How big is your shop? Did we ask you?
No, it's about 400 square meters, so 4,000 square feet, maybe.
Whew. That's a big shop.
Yeah, it's a factory we rent that, it's all set up in.
Yeah.
But no, it's brick walls and a tin roof. And it's got sisolation on, so just like a layer of foil, but it's, probably 30 years old and falling off in spots, and so you get a good idea of what the temperature is outside.
Yeah, and it gets toasty there, doesn't it?
Yeah. We're sandwiched between other factories, so if it's one hot day or maybe 2, we're not too bad. But after 3, it really heats up, and
you're starting to get thermal mass warm.
It's pretty cold in the winter too. Helps a little bit when we run the kiln. We've got a big vacuum wood drying kiln here for drying the pieces. That got some big heaters in it, But
that'll keep you warm.
yeah.
It
And the
doesn't
robot
actually
doesn't
get that
care.
cold. Does it actually get that cold there?
No, like, yeah, we might get maybe down to 0 Celsius on a really cold, night here once or
Right.
twice a year. But yeah, normally it's above that. It's 22 degrees Celsius here outside at the moment. So
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is hot,
it's
isn't
summer, so
yeah,
you got summer down there.
yeah,
The world is tipped you towards the sun this time of year,
yeah.
and yet you manage to not fall off the earth. Go figure.
Holding on.
Gotta hold on. Yeah. Well, good thing the gravity all pulls towards the middle, right?
Yeah.
Man, and we have not gotten any Ask the Host segments yet. Nobody has asked us any questions.
Man, we're going to have to do something about this. I'm going
Well,
to talk to all 4 of my people.
yeah, well, eventually we're going to get a listener that wants to know something, and we will be happy to potentially answer that question. But
That is true. That is true.
I mean, hey, if you're out there, send us a DM to our Instagram or drop into our Discord and throw us a question, and we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
You got anything else you wanna mention about the robot toy here, or did we miss anything?
I don't know. We've covered a fair bit of it. But yeah, I guess the other key thing we have here is the vacuum kiln. Because we're working straight from a log, at some point you've got to dry that, to create a finished furniture piece. So yeah, designed and built a vacuum kiln because there weren't many options available in Australia. But yeah, so we'll rough out something roughly to shape with the robot from a log using the bandsaw and chainsaw, and then typically put that into the vacuum kiln. Use that to dry it over a couple of weeks, and then put it back in the robot cell and finish machine it to shape.
So you're literally farm to table.
Yeah. Snout to
We
tail.
went to the tree. Yeah, you went to the farm and bought a tree and made a table.
Considering about a third of your product line appears to be tables, that is about accurate.
Beautiful work, by the way. Your work is amazing. Amazing.
No, thanks.
At least I've seen the Instagram page as well.
Yeah. Everything looks better on Instagram, so
yeah,
it does.
And if it's not on Instagram, did it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Probably not. I hear there's people in the workshop that don't post anything online. I don't know many of those people, but I hear it's a thing. You don't actually have to share everything you do online. It's apparently just it's something that a lot of us like to do because it's fun, and we like
and
the
a lot of us
attention,
shouldn't.
and we like the attention, and lots of us that are actually making products like the customers that come when they see you do flashy stuff on Instagram and on Facebook. They see somebody making a 200 centimeter nut with inside threads and nice beveled edges and everything, and they're like, wow, that's some eye-catching shit. So do you think you could you take a log and carve a crescent wrench big enough to turn one of your 200 centimeter nuts?
Yeah, definitely. And I've had quite a few people ask. Well, initially they would ask when I'm making the bolt. So
Okay.
I'm working on the bolt at the moment. But yeah, now people are asking for spanners and sockets and
Right. It would make sense to have a spanner and a socket to put the nut and the bolt together once you've got those.
Yeah.
And
have you heard of Paul Jackman?
even if even if you've got no use for it, it would be some amazing content. Really.
Yeah.
I did
For
definitely
sure,
consider
for sure.
doing that a few years ago. We even had a chat to a tool company over here. We were going to
Okay.
engrave one with their logo and do a short video with that.
That would be a
That would
good
be
promo
cool.
for a
Yeah.
brand. It really would,
Yeah.
but just
And
a
just fun.
standard Craftsman wrench.
Yeah.
You'd think somebody like Craftsman would give you enough money to make that happen, because that's super content for a brand like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I actually the giant wooden hex nuts, we actually used to make do the final machining by screwing them onto a matching jig. So we'd actually
Okay.
thread them on. But yeah, I left one on overnight once, and because I was machining them wet, then the timber actually shrunk onto the jig, and we couldn't get it off.
Oh no.
So yeah, we really could have done with the spanner then.
Yeah,
Little W340.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, you could always just get a big grabber hand for the robot.
Yeah.
Like, think Aliens, the movie.
Yeah.
They've got those big walking things with the big grabby hands. I
Yeah.
mean, just the grabby hand part. You don't need to go all hacksmith and make the whole loader. But just the hand, just having a big grabby hand that works like the crescent wrench that opens and closes. I mean, you could just have the robot arm reach over and do all the turning the nut, and that'd be amazing content too. Just on its,
Yeah.
I mean, once it makes the wrench, you have the wrench mounted on the robot arm, so the robot can turn the nut for you. That's content. It sounds like a lot of work, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, you never know. It's a good idea. You might have
it
a
is
go
a
at
good
that sometime.
idea if you can slide that in between jobs that actually pay you money. Then there's priorities in life, and the things that you can charge money for are definitely more important for somebody that's running renting a factory-sized place to make things. One had best find ways to make money to cover that rent.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I'm going out to my shop tomorrow and tell Hannibal, that's the name of my CNC, that he's half the CNC he should be.
Yeah. Oh well.
He better step it up.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. It looks like he does some pretty good work anyway.
Well, I appreciate that.
He does.
Yeah. I guess I've got a question for the host.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fiber lasers. You're using one there, aren't you, Al?
I am.
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what sort of power and specs have you got on your machine, and what can that do?
Mine is a Thunder brand. It's the Aurora 8. It is a 50 watt. It's not a MOPA or any of that. It's just a straight 50 watt. I have a 300 millimeter lens, I believe, which is kind of the middle of the road.
Okay.
I can do 6 inches by 6 inches roughly.
Yep.
If you're going to do super fine detail, you can do it's a bigger lens, I think, but that drops you down to like 2.5 by 2.5.
Okay.
My laser is fully encased with it's got the garage door, like it's not open, and that was a considerable.
You like your eyesight?
I do like my eyesight, and it's right next to me. And from what the research I did, fiber lasers can talk about stupid fine. You don't want to be breathing brass dust.
Yeah.
I mean, wood dust you can process that. It's organic.
Yeah.
So I just, I went with a little less power and got the safety of the enclosure and the comfort of knowing that it's safe and all that. I got a rotary. I mean, I engraved a casing of a brass casing of a hole puncher.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say that on here? But I engraved that in the rotary, so it gets pretty. I can do the inside of a wedding band. You know, it's pretty.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so, but to your point, I know you're interested in them. You can get a lot more power for a lot less money with other brands.
Yeah.
Right.
But I chose to go with comfort and safety.
Yeah.
For me, you know,
Power,
if I end up
on these things is an absolute trade-off on time. Because
that's all, and that's the only, trade-off.
As far as I can tell, as
Yep.
somebody who doesn't have one, is that with the fiber lasers, they can all do the same job, but with the low power, you're going to take an hour of repeated passes to get the same thing that a high power one could do it in 20 minutes. But it's just, if it's important enough for you to get it done quickly, the power matters. Otherwise, it's like if I was going to do it for a hobby, I don't care if the thing has to run for 2.5 hours to do a deep engraving on like a challenge coin kind of thing. If I want to do 3D engravings on something, I don't care if it takes 3 hours because I have 3 hours. This is hobby for me versus somebody that wants to turn out challenge coins one after the other because they're selling them for $100 a piece. You're going to want those to get done in 15 minutes. You're going to need the 100-watt fiber to get that done quick, or 200. I don't know how high do they go. 150?
You can get 250 now.
Okay.
The only thing you would, and again at a hobbyist level, probably not a something you should be super concerned about. But if you're going to be doing production, yes, time. But I have found and have in reading the lower power lasers take like 100-watt takes an hour. A 50-watt's going to take 2 hours. A 25-watt's going to take 3 hours, or 4 hours, I should say. But the problem you run into at 25 watts is the thermal load on the piece.
Okay.
So you could lose detail because you're heating it slower and longer, and you're not dissipating heat fast enough.
You're heating the metal up for 4 hours straight, and it's going to retain that and build up.
You can do cooling tables, like they have like almost like candy tables. You know what I mean? Like people use marble, people use like aluminum with computer coolers running through them. Like there's all kinds of mods now that people are doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but you would really have to run that thing. You'd be running a 20-watt maximum, and if you're gonna do the things that will cause those issues, you're gonna buy a bigger laser anyway.
Right.
You know, but 50 to 100 watt, you can mark and do pretty much anything comfortably.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Over 100 watt, you're just looking for speed.
Yeah.
You know, until you get up into cutting lasers, and they're just fun.
Now there's something to put on the end of the robot.
We did do one robot system with that at my previous work.
Right.
Oh,
3 kilowatt laser on there. So
that'll be fun.
See, that's how the world ends because of people like you. Robots just start slicing buildings open.
Yeah, that's working its stuff right up into the Austin Powers or Tony Stark range right there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh well, it is what it is. But I think that's about all we're gonna have for today.
Yeah.
I think Al's about ready for bed. It's getting kind of late, and it's almost mid-afternoon in Australia.
Yeah.
What I think you're
4 o'clock.
17 and 18 hours ahead of us, respectively.
Yeah.
So
ahead of us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's a man from the future. Can you tell us what
Yeah.
the stock market did tomorrow so we can bet on it today? It seems like
I'll
that
send you a
could
few
work.
key recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leigh, this has been amazing. When he told me he was having you on before, as we were beginning this podcast, he's like, I've got a guest already. I've been excited for 5 episodes now.
Well, I
I've been
think
kind of
5 episodes
fanboying on
ago,
you.
I think he was on the he was near the top of the want list of people that I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to, but
Yeah.
he hasn't been confirmed for that many weeks.
I was gonna say, I didn't know anything about it then.
Right. Well, we had to get a couple episodes in before I found you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
A pleasure to meet you, sir.
Yeah,
definitely
likewise.
like
It's great chatting to you both. And
definitely good to have you on. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate that, and that's an amazing conversation about that fun tool you've got going on. And everybody else who enjoyed this episode should go follow Leigh under Twig and Bot. And I'd like to thank Al for taking the time to hang out tonight, and thank all the listeners for tuning in. I need to give a huge thank you to all our current patrons for their support. So many thanks to Adam from BKR Customs, and a huge thanks to our new patron this week, who is Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More. And Ed makes a lot of awesome clocks and more. So you need to go give him a follow on Instagram. It is Ed's EDS _ clocks and more, one word. So thank you for the support. And if you've enjoyed listening and would like to help support the show, you can share it with your friends, leave a review, or you can join our Patreon. You can find the Patreon at patreon.com/digifabricators. You can leave podcast reviews on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Podchaser, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Audible, and Good Pods. And I see we've got a Discord server open to all listeners. Patrons get access to an exclusive patron channel. And direct links to our Discord server and Patreon page are in the Digifabricators Instagram bio, which you should also be following at Digi-Fabricators. And if you or someone you know does cool things with their tools, please contact us. We only have so many friends to invite, and we will need your suggestions to keep the show going. So I can be found most places as a weird guy, and Al can be found under New York Woodworks, which is NY Woodworks with an X. Thanks again to everyone, and we will catch you on the next episode. Sweet. Nailed it.